It's 12 o'clock and it is webcast day. I hope you're all keeping well. And I am absolutely thrilled that Barbara Scully, broadcaster and writer, has joined me today because we are going to find out just what her reaction was like, how she went through it, type 2 diabetes, be a shock for anyone, I think. Barbara, you're very good for coming on and sharing your story with,
Sure,
with
look,
everybody.
I'm a big blabbermouth who overshares everything, as my husband says. You have to talk about everything. I'm like, yeah. So no problem talking about it, sharing my own personal stuff.
But coming up, just before when you went to see the GP and you got the results, what were you doing? So what was life like?
What was I not doing, really, basically?
Okay, what were you not doing?
Yes, I was not doing a lot. I mean, anybody who knows me, and even who just knows me from online and stuff like that, will know that for years I have been what I would have called myself a happy fatty. I mean, I knew I was overweight. My weight, I suppose, started to go up originally when I gave up cigarettes, and that was in my mid-30s. And I put on some weight. And I remember thinking, yes, you're grand. Once I give up the cigarettes, I can deal with the weight kind of later. That's easy to deal with. So I need to give up the cigarettes first. And then, of course, I had 2 more children in my late 30s. And that put up more weight. And then I was at home for 10 years with my kids. I learned to bake. I loved baking. I was my own baking's biggest fan. And I was overweight. And every time I went to the doctor about anything, I got a lecture about, Barbara, you need to lose weight. Now, I mean, I wasn't, a blimp, but I was definitely, 3 stone overweight at least. And I kept saying, yeah, I must do something about it. I was conscious that I should do something about it. But at the other side of my brain, I was like, I don't really care.
Yeah.
I'm happy out. I liked to be kind to myself, and I was very kind to myself. And so it wasn't just the fact that I was overweight, because I wasn't stuffing my face all day. I wasn't eating cakes all day, but my portion sizes were probably out of control. I did like, as I say, my own baking. But more than that, and it's because you become fat and you become overweight. And I was never a big fan of exercise anyway. I wasn't, like, in school, I was the girl who tried to think up of an excuse every week to avoid PE class. So I was never really one for sport, never really loved exercise. And increasingly, as I got older and fatter, I did less. And I was at home with my kids. So, I didn't have to do a whole lot. And then when I hit 50, I thought, and I became a grandmother at 55-ish. 55. And I remember thinking, now's the time I really need to do this. I didn't want to be a useless granny who couldn't do anything because she was unfit. And I thought I really should do. But did I? I kept thinking I must do. And I made half-hearted attempts to lose a bit of weight. But the problem is that you'd lose a bit of weight, and then my stupid brain would go, oh, that's grand. Look, I've lost a half a stone.
I'm fine now.
I'll treat myself. And, and then it all goes back up again. And then you just think, oh, God wants me to be fat, so I'll just stay fat. And obviously, if you're overweight, exercise is much more difficult. So even when I decided I'm going to go for a walk, my knees were starting to give me hassle. My ankles were starting to give me hassle. And I was putting this down to my age, not my weight. I was thinking, oh, I'm getting old, getting arthritic, can't do this, can't do that. And I suppose, and I mean, if I'm being really honest, and I've actually written about this, I've written a book in lockdown, which at the moment is with publishers. But one of the things I shared in that was that there wasn't, like, about 2 years ago, we were in Amsterdam or in Copenhagen on a city break with my husband, and I love my bath, and I had a bath in the hotel, and I couldn't get out of the bath.
Right.
And I remember thinking, this isn't great, but I still did nothing. So
it's that. And even though all these things are happening, and I mean, like that, as you were saying, you're at home, you're baking.
Yes.
I mean, I was the same. You're at home, you have the routine of the kids, the schools, the dinners, you bake, you do the birthday parties, you do all. And I think for that period of time, for the majority of women, it is just that. Get through each thing, so we get to the next stage or phase or point or whatever.
And the other thing is, I think that, again, particularly when you're a mother, but also just for all women, I think it's kind of in our DNA, and it's something we need to look at and understand about ourselves. We tend to put our own needs last.
That's it.
So time is also another thing that you constantly say, sure, I don't have time to exercise. I'm very busy. I have to do this and I have to do that. And most of us are busy. It's not like we're sitting on the sofa dropping chocolates in our mouth. We are busy, and I was busy, and I was active in that sense. But I wasn't actually doing exercise. It just wasn't a priority. And there was a part of me that thought, and I would still be very against fat shaming. I was body positive. I'm the mother of, I've only daughters, I've no sons. So I would be very keen on them understanding that, they are much more than how they look.
Yeah.
So all of that. But a year ago, literally exactly a year ago, I was down in West Cork on my holidays, as I go down every year. And I was down there for 10 days, and it had been a busy summer, and I was very tired going down. And I remember thinking, I'll be fine once I chill, because I literally do nothing in West Cork. I sit on my ass and I read and I, do very little. And after 10 days in West Cork, I was as exhausted as when I'd gone down. And I remember
Right.
thinking, this isn't right. I shouldn't be this tired now. So I came back, and before before I picked up the phone to my GP, I consulted Dr. Google. And of course,
Oh,
again,
yeah.
at my age, I'm 58, so I was 57 last year. Everything that's wrong with you, you put down to menopause. And I was
Yes.
thinking, I'm tired because of menopause. And but when I put in the symptoms into Google of tiredness and my age and the fact that I was overweight, it wasn't menopause that came up. It was diabetes, type 2 diabetes. And I remember going, oh. And when I investigated, I ticked all the
All the
boxes.
boxes.
I have family history. My father developed diabetes when he was in his 50s, sedentary lifestyle, overweight, thirsty. I suffered from migraines for years, and so I often thought they were linked with dehydration. So I would tend to drink a lot of water anyway. My finger, I had a numbness in one of my fingers, which was developed in the last 6 months. That was another symptom. Big babies, all my babies are, but I'm a big person, so obviously I'm going to have big babies. So, but anyway, I ticked loads of the boxes. So I kind of knew. So by the time I got down to the doctor's surgery, the interesting thing was, though, that I had had a full medical done 18 months before that. Because I'd lost a friend very suddenly to a heart attack. And I thought, oh gosh. And I went and had a full
Yeah.
medical, and my bloods all came back normal. Now, they were always I was always told to lose weight. And there was once or twice I was told you may develop diabetes if you're not careful. But my blood sugars were never high. But this time, my blood sugars were high. And even my
Yeah.
doctor was surprised. So I went straight from, I never went to pre-diabetes. I went straight from kind of fairly normal to
To
full-blown type
bang.
2 diabetes. And although I wasn't surprised at the diagnosis, it was a wake-up call. I did suddenly go, because diabetes, and we hear about diabetes and we joke about diabetes a lot. You eat a cake and you're like, oh, diabetes on a plate. And we talk about diabetes an awful lot, and we think, and it's not a serious illness unless you don't take care of it. If you
Yeah. And
don't take
actually,
it, yeah,
we
sorry.
have put, no, you're okay, Pat. What we've done is actually, I got a PDF from the World Health Organization. So there's a link going to go into the comments, and it is just, it's not a pictogram. I can't
An
even remember.
illustration. No.
Yes, of the images. I can't even think the name of it, but it says like there's about 1 in 11 in the globally. So you're looking at numbers. That means like if you're standing with socially distanced with a group of
Yeah.
people, the
Yeah.
chances are
Yeah.
that one of you has or is in the position of developing in just that small group of people type 2 diabetes. Now, so when
Yeah.
you bring it down to numbers like that, and you've kind of 6 in your family, add 4 or 5 people
Mm,
into the group,
mm.
all of a sudden one of you. So that kind of brings that reality to home. But you mentioned something earlier, women, and it's one of the key messages through most of the interviews that we've done here is we leave ourselves last.
Yeah, we do. We
Uh,
definitely do.
yeah, and that's the thing. And
Hmm.
then we end up trying to catch up on ourselves because we've
Yeah.
spent all that time looking after everyone else.
And, it's like the example I know that's used very often. If you are caring, because very often once you're finished caring for your children, and I mean, you'll care for them until they're feckin' well big
Yeah.
adults. But you very often then move into caring for elderly relatives or parents or something like that. But it's like the example of on a flight. If you don't have your oxygen mask on yourself, you can't help your kids. That's why when you're on a flight, they always tell you, put your oxygen mask on first, then look after your children. If you don't keep yourself well, you can't. If it is caring, if that's one of the things that's taking up a lot of your time, you're not going to be able to do that for very long. And the problem with diabetes is that very often a lot of people can have it and are not diagnosed because there's no real big symptom that you can go, oh, definitely, tiredness, numbness in my finger, maybe go to the loo more often. So I would suggest that there are a lot of people who perhaps are in the early stages of diabetes and don't even know it. And the problem with diabetes is that if you don't look after it, diabetes obviously is that your body is not handling glucose. So you've too much, I mean, the way I simply explained it was you've too much sugar in your blood. And I used to think of it like my blood had gone sticky.
Yeah.
And sticky blood will damage organs, and it'll particularly damage your kidneys, your liver, your heart, your eyesight, your extremities, your feet. So you will end up with serious problems that cannot be undone if you don't take your diabetes diagnosis seriously. And so I realized that very quickly because, as I say, my father had diabetes, and I had a great role model in him because I remember this was back in the 80s. When he was diagnosed, he took it terribly seriously and he changed his life. And I saw, and he had a much more serious, his diabetes was much more serious when he was diagnosed because he initially had to inject insulin. I was put
Right.
onto tablets. And I was put onto tablets for my cholesterol because that is another issue. But I also knew that I could turn this around if I took myself in hand. And honestly, a year on, I can say absolutely that diabetes was the best thing that's happened to me in years because it gave me that wake up call that I needed. And I mean, I'm a bit ashamed to say that it took that before I would consider myself a reasonably intelligent woman, that it took that diagnosis before I took my own health seriously.
Yeah, no, but it does. I think sometimes, and that's what happens, certainly as moms, but as women in general, we push ourselves to such limits. We don't, we don't see how far we're actually pushing ourselves, that it can take, an accident or an incident like a diagnosis like that to actually make it, oh, hang on a second. And you start looking back and you're going, but oh yeah, but I was doing this and I was doing this and I was doing this, and it was all for everybody else. There was nothing in it for me as such. And then when you were forced into now looking into yourself and saying, all right, now I got to do something. What, like, was it like a feeling of, okay, there was a weight lifted off your shoulders because you now had to focus on yourself? Or was it, oh no, how am I going to do this kind of?
It was a bit, oh no, how am I going to do this? Because I mean, my GP is lovely and I'm in the middle of Dublin where you'd imagine all the services should be all around me. But as usual in Ireland, the care and the community element falls short. So I was in my GP. He told me, yeah, diabetes, definitely. He gave me a phone number. Now, he said to me, you're going to have to lose weight and you're going to have to start taking exercise. That was the basic bottom line. But how I did that, I wasn't too sure.
Yeah.
And I got a phone number. He said, here's a HSC phone number. They have a community-based workshop that they do for people who've been diagnosed with diabetes to help you kind of understand about the disease and how you need to change your lifestyle. Because type 2 diabetes is a lifestyle disease.
Yes.
I've given this to myself. So I rang the number, and I'm in Cabinteely in South Dublin, and I rang the number and I was told that the next workshop, now this was in mid-August, the next workshop in my area, and it wasn't really in my area, was going to be the end of October. And I knew that if I didn't act quickly, if I sat around on my ass until the end of October, the shock of the diagnosis would have worn off. I'd be kind of going, yeah, but sure, I'm grand. I still feel okay. I'm grand. And I probably wouldn't have done anything. I knew I had to act quickly. And this is the place where it falls down. We don't give people the support they need immediately. So I was left on my own. And I mean, I'm an intelligent woman. I'm a writer. I'm used to doing research. So, of course, I immediately was online. And I'm a vegetarian as well. So I was searching for diet recipes that were vegetarian, that had no sugar,
Yeah.
and that were low calorie so that I could lose weight. And I mean, you get, obviously we all know with the internet, you get bombarded with information from
Yes.
everywhere. And I shared my diagnosis publicly, and a lot of people were very helpful, but a lot of people said all this wacky stuff as well about diets. And I
I
mean, I
don't
looked
think
at
I sent you anything.
you looked at, like, there was fasting diets, there was,
Yeah.
keto diets, there was all kinds of diets. And in the end, there was one particular day, and I remember about 2 weeks in, and I was doing my best. I mean, the obvious sugar is easy. No cakes, no chocolate, no sweets. That's fine. But it's sugar, which I never realized either.
Yes.
Carbohydrates, when you're not burning the energy that carbohydrates are meant to provide us with, that turns into sugar. And that was a huge problem for me because I love my carbs and my portion sizes were out of control. Now, that took me about 3 weeks to understand that myself. Diabetes Ireland were helpful. I went onto their website and that was very helpful. And I printed out a thing from them and that was great. But then after that, I felt very much confused. Like, as I said to my husband one day, this boils down to what the hell can I have for my breakfast? Like,
Yes.
that's where I'm at. I don't know what I should eat. Like, in the past, if I was trying to lose weight, I had Special K and a banana. Special K is full of sugar. I can't have Special K. What the hell am I going to have for my breakfast? And I did an interview with Ciara Kelly on Lunchtime Live one day, and a friend of mine who's a lovely friend, and she's got a nursing background, and she's also diabetic. She heard it, and I think she must have heard the frustration in my voice, and she rang me and she said, "What's going on?" And I said, "I am completely confused as to what I should be doing." And she said to me that there was no, and I'd never been told this by my GP or by anybody else. There was a diabetic unit in St. Michael's Hospital in Dún Laoghaire, which is 2 miles away. And she said, "Get yourself referred there. You'll get all the support you need." And I was like, how come nobody told
How
me
come?
this?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So I rang my GP and gave him a bit of a talking to, and then said, "I want a referral down here." And got down there a few weeks later, and they had a whole morning session where it was very informal. But they just explained the food pyramid. They made it very simple. I was then eating smoothies, and I was thinking smoothie for breakfast, lots of fruit, but fruit is full of fruit sugar, so
It's
you
its
can't have
own
that
sugars.
either.
That's right.
So I learned a lot in the morning down there. But from all of that, my takeaway is, and if you're trying to lose weight for any reason, I lost 2 stone, and it took me 6 months, more than 6 months. But you've got to find what suits you.
Yeah.
In other
Yeah.
words, not, me saying, here's what I eat and this what worked for me, that's not necessarily going to work for you. Because if you want a sustainable weight loss, you've got to find something that you can live with. If you feel I'm on a diet, but someday I'm not going to be on a diet and then I'm going to be happy, I can go back to eating the things I liked. You're not going to be
But
successful.
that's it. And people, what a lot will do is, and I've seen it myself even from working in fitness, is that, this is the latest trend. I am going to do this, whatever type of class it is or whatever. And they follow the friend and they follow the trend.
Yeah.
So, and actually you are less likely to keep that up because I love walking. I don't like walking in towns. I like walking the rural roads. So I'll actually drive out to the rural area and I'll walk there, and I've started sea swimming, which is brilliant, by the way. Highly recommend.
Yeah,
yes.
I'm experimenting with that at the moment. I'll come back to that,
Yeah, which is great. But I would love the gym, but I know somebody else, I'd say, well, why are you joining the gym? Will you keep it up? If you're going to pay that €80 a month or something like that, whatever it is, to the gym, are you going to get the value for it? Or would you be better starting with a walk or whatever? So it is always, always about finding what suits you, your lifestyle and your time. That is exactly
right. That's exactly what I found. And I mean, people would say, "Oh, I did this and it was great." And I mean, listen to all of that, but realize, because a lot of my friends would say, do your exercise first thing in the morning. Like if it's a walk, go out first. That doesn't work for me. I do not want to get up earlier in order to go for a walk. I prefer to walk in the dark at night. And that's what I did. But obviously, with exercise, when I started walking, my knees were giving me a problem,
Yes.
my ankles were giving me a problem. And I did get very fed up thinking, I just can't do this. What am I meant to do? And two things happened. I met, by coincidence, Professor Niall Moyna in
Yeah.
RT one day, and I was telling him, and he said, because I was trying to power walk, because, to lose weight, you've got to power walk. And he said, you don't, just move. He said, doesn't matter what rate you're going at, just so long as you're putting one foot in front of the other. So walk at whatever rate is comfortable at the moment. And I slowed down, and that helped. But then I realized also that I get bored. I have a really low threshold of boredom. So I get bored very easily. So if I'm walking, first of all, the same route all the time, I'm not going to stick it. So I had to
Yeah.
vary. I have about 5 loop walks around here, and I can vary them. But also, if I'm walking every day, even that'll bore me. It'll be like a
Yeah.
walk again. So I did join the gym. Now, I was terrified at the whole idea of joining a gym. And I joined our local community gym, which was very cheap. It was like 30 euros a month,
Mm.
full gym and use of the pool as much as I wanted. So I started just going to the pool. They did a swim at 9 o'clock at night, a lane swim. And I mean, I was crap. I was in the slow lane being overtaken by the people walking. I mean, I was useless. But I kept it up and I got a little bit better. And then I started to go to the gym because on nights when it was peeing rain or freezing cold, I knew I just did not want to go for a walk. So I went to the gym instead. And it got me through the winter.
And you got a bike.
Yeah.
And I have followed your story, and your bike, you named your bike.
Sheila. Yeah, Sheila.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you and Sheila have toured
Me and
the
Sheila.
place now.
Sheila is the best thing I have ever, the best present. And it was a present. My mad daughter, my eldest mad daughter, lives in Australia. She came home at Christmas, and obviously my new lifestyle was, she knew about it. I had been thinking maybe I'll get a bike, but I was terrified. I mean, I drive in the city, so
Yes.
bike terrified me. And I was like, oh, I don't know if I'd ever have the nerve to. And I didn't even know if I could remember how to cycle a bloody bike.
Yeah.
So she came home for Christmas last year and brought me a bike, which I could not believe. Managed to bring it without me noticing it. Anyway, and Sheila is a high Nelly, sit up and beg,
Yeah.
old
The
fashioned,
basket and all.
the little basket on the front, and it's the best thing ever. And me and Sheila, and thankfully, there's very little about this coronavirus that's positive, but one of the most positive things was that traffic stopped for that first month of lockdown. And me and Sheila started to go out a little bit and literally wobble around the roads. But because the roads were quiet, I got my confidence up about cycling. And I can now cycle into town. Woo! So
Which is,
I
well,
cycle.
fair play to you, because I tell you, yeah, it's a long time since I have been cycling in Dublin.
Oh,
And
honestly, it is the best thing. And I've never thought I would say that. And I now use it. And I mean, I feel it's great to feel that you're doing something positive for the environment as well. So that if I have to go to the shop, now obviously if I'm not doing my weekly shop, but if we need bread and milk, I'll get up on the bike and I'll go and get that. Or if I need to go to the post office, or if I need to collect something from somewhere and I can go on the bike, I will go on the bike. And actually I've just
your
been on
husband
Twitter.
cycles. Your husband cycles,
Yeah.
which is great.
Yeah, he used to bike. My husband's English, and when he lived in England, he used to use his bike for going to the pub and cycling home. And he brought his bike with him when he came to live in Ireland 24 years ago, and he never, ever, ever used it. And it sat in our shed with the spiders, languishing. And when I got Sheila, I said to him, go down there, get your bike out, and let's bring it up and see if it's still roadworthy. And he got it sorted out. So he comes out with me as well. And he's lost over a stone as well. So
yeah, because the photographs of the two of you and from your holidays and all there this year, I mean, now to me, because we were chatting off air beforehand, I first met you 9 years ago, and
that's
like
right.
you have height. And I would
Yeah.
never have put you into a category where I'd say, do you know what I mean? As you said yourself, you're happy and you're comfortable and you looked amazing then. And then I was just watching this transformation through your timeline. And there's a fabulous photo of you that you put up, the blue top. And I think it was your first photograph kind of after everything. And when you said, that's it, I don't know if I said, can I say kick ass at this stage?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And it's a fantastic photo. And then every photograph out of yourself and your hubby, and they just look fantastic. And you look so fresh.
Well, I don't know about that. I'm looking at me here. I look very shiny. I should have got more powder on. But yeah, no, it's been, the bike has been absolutely brilliant, and it's been great for us, for our relationship as well. Like, I mean, we've got, he put a what you call it, a bike rack on the back of his car, so we can. I mean, I was just on Twitter asking for directions about cycling on the north side because we need to go out to Malahide at the weekend, and I was thinking, let's drive to Clontarf, leave the car there, and take the bikes, and we can cycle to Malahide via Portmarnock and along the coast, and
that's
we're
a
seeing
massive
places.
Yeah, that's a massive attitude change, though, as well. When
Yeah,
you
it
think
is
back to
huge.
where you were 12
Yeah,
months ago and before
yeah,
that, and if
yeah.
somebody had said to you, yeah, but you're Barbara, this time next year, you'll be up on a bike and you'll be cycling
I would
around
not.
Clontarf.
I mean, I would never have believed it. And honestly, Barbara, I can absolutely say this with my hand on my heart. I feel 10 years younger now than I did a year ago. And I'm open to doing things that I thought I was beyond doing because of my age. It wasn't my age, it was my weight that was
Yes.
stopping me doing things. I mean, the other thing, I mean, you mentioned sea swimming, and we did some sea swimming when we were in West Cork. And my daughter has started, well, she's gone once or twice here in Dun Laoghaire going swimming. And so we're kind of going, yeah, let's go for a swim. So that's the next thing. Is
Just
to
go
try
in.
and
Don't even think about the temperature. Just
just
go
get straight
in
in. That's
and
where
get.
I'm useless. Yeah, no, I stand there going, ha, 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 and torture myself. So I'll have to learn to just go for it.
You just walk in. Yeah, it's a friend of mine, and actually there was an article in I think it was the Independent last year, the Mancharla Sea Swimmers up here. There's a group of them. So I wasn't brave enough to do it last year. But like that, I'm in my 50s now, and I think once you get in there into your 50s, it's like a door opens and you kind of go, ooh, maybe now I can do X, Y, Z, have
You
a
are
go at.
absolutely right. I
Yeah,
think that this age, once you're kind of through the worst of menopause,
yeah.
this is now the most powerful period in a woman's life.
Thank
But
you.
but we are totally derailed by a patriarchal society that tells us we should be fighting aging.
Uh-huh.
And you know what? Feck that. You shouldn't be fighting aging. You should be going out and taking the power that is yours, having raised your kids, having climbed the corporate ladder, whatever you've done with your life. I think once you hit kind of mid to late 50s into your 60s, this is the time when you bring all of that and you
Absolutely.
go out there and you, as you say, you kick ass wherever it needs to be kicked.
Yes. And I actually think that is a fantastic line to finish on today. Barbara, you've been absolutely brilliant. See, I could
Actually,
listen
look,
to you
I've
all day.
loved it.
I've nothing
It's
to
been
do.
great.
Donald J. O'Leary, diabetes type 2 is a lifestyle disease. Brave, honest, and accurate. Yeah,
Well, it is. I
brilliant.
gave it to myself, which is, not something I'm
Yeah,
proud of. But anyway,
and
I've
Kerry
put my
says,
diabetes into remission, by the way. So it's now in remission. So just
yeah,
to,
and you wrote, I meant to go back onto your blog, as Kerry says, is about making sustainable choices and changes for yourself.
yeah.
Funny, there's one thing I wanted, look, all that wise woman energy.
Oh,
Yeah,
bless you. Thank you.
yes, absolutely. There was so many other things I was going to ask you, but one of them was, before we finish, was
Yeah.
when you changed your diet,
Yeah.
did anybody else in the household have to change
Yeah.
their diet too?
Well, they did. Like, I mean, my daughters for the first time, they'll still say it occasionally. They come in and go, "There's nothing to bloody eat in this house anymore. Only apples." I'm like, yeah, there you go. That's what you have. You live here. I pay the mortgage, my house, my
Yeah,
rules.
that's
So, yeah, no, we've all benefited. We definitely have all benefited from it, and from being more active as well.
brilliant,
Definitely.
brilliant. Barbara, you've been an absolute
It
dream
was
job.
a pleasure.
I've
Thank
nothing
you
to
for
do.
asking me. Thank you for
Thank you
asking me.
so
I've
much.
loved it. Thank you.
And there is a link in the comments for anybody there with an infographic. That's the word I was looking for,
Yay!
from the World Health Organization on diabetes and things you can do and things to look out for and what you need in your life. So until next week, everybody, thank you. And we shall chat to you then, and follow Barbara's blog on barbarascully.com because she has some fabulous COVID diaries in there too. Okay, chat to you all then. Cheerio. Bye-bye.
Thank you.